We promised that we would repeal and replace Obamacare, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Well, this has been a very productive week in the House as we continue our efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare.
After this morning, the resolve of our conference to repeal Obamacare and replace it has never been stronger.
It's why I and many of my colleagues did as we promised and voted to repeal this failed law.
We will be able to immediately repeal and replace Obamacare. Have to do it.
That begins with immediately repealing and replacing the disaster known as Obamacare.
A few moments later.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer, I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it.
I had stage 4 cancer.
I'm so sorry.
I want to ask to make sure that you're going to promise to not ever vote against the Affordable Care Act because people's lives like mine depend on it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Do you have a specific bill you're concerned about?
They thought they were voting for a better future, but what happens when promises turn to dust? Republicans who fought to tear down the Affordable Care Act are waking up to a harsh reality. No replacement plan, no solutions, just concepts of a plan. And now millions might be left scrambling while their lives and health hang in the balance. From life-threatening pre-existing conditions to skyrocketing medical bills, from life-saving treatments to the security of coverage, Obamacare was their lifeline. Many are realizing they've cut the very safety net they never knew they needed. I've gathered videos for you that I want us to watch together, guys. Every stitch and every clip that you'll be seeing on our today's episodes, credits belongs to the original creators of these videos that you're seeing on your screens. Their names are on their screens. You can check them on their TikTok account. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, my good name is Gracey D. Kindly consider subscribing to this channel. Give this video a like and let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section. And if you're a MAGA supporter who actually went on ahead and voted against Obamacare because you didn't know that it was the same as Affordable Care Act, I'd love you to tell me what your thoughts are on this and why you didn't like Obamacare because you didn't know it was the same as Affordable Care Act. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section. Let's dive right ahead to today's video and we'll come back with more commentary.
We promised that we would repeal and replace Obamacare, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Well, this has been a very productive week in the House as we continue our efforts to repeal and replace Obamacare.
After this morning, the resolve of our conference to repeal Obamacare and replace it has never been stronger.
It's why I and many of my colleagues did as we promised and voted to repeal this failed law.
We will be able to immediately repeal and replace Obamacare. Have to do it.
That begins with immediately repealing and replacing the disaster known as Obamacare.
So I'd like to terminate Obamacare. Tonight I am also calling on this Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare.
Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain.
We aren't getting health care. We are not getting health care. I just watched more of the Trump interview, and I'm so regretting that I did.
Let me just tell you, if we find something better, I would love to do it. But one thing I have to say, I inherited Obamacare, or anything else you want to go. It's got about 20 names, but I inherited it. And I had a decision to make with Health and Human Services. I had a big decision to make. Do I make it as good as we can make it, or do I let it rot? And a lot of political people said, let it rot and let it be a failure. I said, that's not the right thing to do. And I had very good people in the medical area that handled that. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, we really have an obligation to make it as good as we can. And we did. We made it as good as we can make it. Instead of making it bad where everybody would be calling for its repeal, I made it so that it works. Now,
but you did try to overturn it, sir.
Well, it's
you did
lousy.
try to overturn it. You did have your Justice Department try to direct the Supreme Court to.
No, we got a little bit of a surprising opinion, to be honest with you. If it would have been overturned, we would have had much better health care right now. But right now, we have something that I made the best of. I could have made the worst of it, and it would have fallen by the wayside. I did the right thing from a human standpoint, but, you know, I'm sort of proud of my decision. At the same time, sometimes I regret it. I told the people, and I gave them the money to do it. I said, fix it, make it work, because people would have suffered. But it's too bad that they voted no. I wish John McCain, he fought for 10 years on replacing Obamacare, for 10 years, and then he voted against. Nobody understands it.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer, I would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though, sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir, will people with pre-existing conditions still have coverage, and can you guarantee their prices will not go up?
The answer is yes, they'll have coverage. You have to have it.
And what about their prices?
Because you know what?
What about their prices, sir?
I want the prices to go down. I want to have better health care for less money. And there are ways of doing it, I believe. And I have the smartest people in that world. You know, that's a separate world unto itself. I have the smartest people in that world looking at it and trying. And if they come up with something, I will present it. Now, maybe you won't be able to sell it, but if we get better health care for less money, I believe it's very saleable.
Just very quickly, when will we see your fully developed plan? When are you going to show
I don't know that you'll see it at all. I can only say that we have some of the best health care people. I've always tinkered with it. I think it's a little hard to explain. Obamacare, when I took it over, was a disaster. And I made it
workable. It has insured 20 million people.
Yeah, because of me. Because of me. If you look at what I did, I was I made it good.
You tried to repeal and replace it. You tried to kill it,
because if I repealed it and replaced it, we would have had a better system because we wouldn't have had health care. And the Democrats would have been forced to do something. If we wouldn't have had it, the Democrats would have been forced to do something that they wouldn't do if we have it.
I've just never seen anyone who can just BS his way through any situation. It's impressive, actually. It's impressive.
Let's be honest, Trump would have no issue at all with the ACA if people called it Trump Care instead of Obamacare. The only thing Mr. Concepts of a Plan for Healthcare really cares about is getting rid of the ACA because he knows it's Obama's legacy and he just can't stand it. It's actually been proven in studies. When you ask people, do they support the ACA? A lot of people say yes. When you ask those same people, do they support Obamacare? They say no. So I actually have a really simple pitch for how to fix this healthcare issue with the ACA that's going to cost $0 and not require any big hair pulling from our legislators. Let's just take Obamacare, scratch out Obama, and let Trump take his big freaking Sharpie out and write Trump over the top of it. Guaranteed, just the legislation to make a name change would make all these people in America who have such a big issue with Obamacare suddenly okay with it, and approval ratings for this program would go through the roof. It's not that these people hate the ACA, it's they hate that it's called Obamacare. If you put Trump's name on it, not only would he support it, all of our Republican legislators would also have a better approval of it, and people all across the country who have these big issues will suddenly get their panties untwisted.
I had stage 4 cancer.
I'm so sorry.
I want to ask to make sure that you're going to promise to not ever vote against the Affordable Care Act because people's lives like mine depend on it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Do you have a specific bill you're concerned about?
Well, I'm concerned that they're talking again about cuts to the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
And if there's another repeal vote, how would you vote?
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything about the repeal vote. Do you know a bill number?
I believe that President Trump was saying that he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
So is that something you would support?
He's not the president right now. We're looking at every bill as it comes forward. Not on that committee, but one of the things we've doubled down on is making sure cancer survivors like my mother also have access to it. So we're very committed to it. I think you'll see that in our voting record. And also ask you, come join us in our office so we can talk through the legislation together.
And you promise not to cut the Affordable Care Act and take away health insurance from people like me?
Yeah. Did you hear what I just said? Yeah, thank you.
You know, many people refer to Obamacare as insurance, but it is important to understand that the Affordable Care Act, ACA, or Obamacare is not actually an insurance policy. Rather, it's just a federal law that regulates the health insurance industry and makes health insurance more affordable and accessible for Americans. So, under the ACA, health insurance companies are required to offer essential health benefits such as coverage for preventive care, prescription drugs, and maternity care. The law also prohibits insurance companies from denying coverage to individuals with pre-existing conditions. In addition, the ACA established health insurance marketplaces where individuals and small businesses can purchase health insurance plans at affordable rates. So while the ACA is not an insurance policy itself, it has a significant impact on the insurance industry and has helped to make health insurance more accessible and affordable for millions of Americans.
Comments blaming Obamacare, aka the Affordable Care Act, are so ignorant. Due to the Affordable Care Act, millions of people are now able to afford healthcare coverage because of Medicaid and because of Covered California or marketplace insurance through the state. The people who are receiving subsidized healthcare are not the problem. Also, due to the Affordable Care Act, healthcare companies cannot deny covering my daughter due to her being diabetic. That was a problem before. Health insurance companies would not cover people with pre-existing conditions. The issue has always been the people at the top, not the people who can't afford to stay alive because health insurance and health coverage is so astronomically expensive.
Well, apparently, Republicans support Obamacare, and it has hit record high. In a recent Gallup poll, 19% of respondents who identify as Republicans said that they would approve Obamacare, the highest approval rating since the poll began in 2012. The 19% was up by 8 points from the same poll in 2021. Do you remember those videos during the election? People were like saying they want to get rid of Obamacare, but they also didn't realize Obamacare was the ACA. And the interviewer would tell them, oh yeah, Obamacare is actually the Affordable Care Act. They were like, oh my God, no way. I can't believe. Oh, I don't want to get rid of Affordable Care Act. Oh, congratulations. Now Donald Trump is in, and him and the Republicans wants to get rid of the ACA. They will make it better. I hope to all the people that needs the ACA, by the time they're done with it, they will still give you some kind of insurance. Because at the moment, I'm pretty sure they're just going to throw it back to the insurance companies and let them deal with it. Based on all the news I've been seeing what the insurance companies are doing to change their policies recently, since Trump got elected, oh man, I think you guys are going to get fucked.
So a lot of people on social media today are learning that the reason they have health insurance today or in previous years is largely because of Obamacare. And the reason we're realizing this today, it is the 14th anniversary of Barack Obama signing the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, into law. But as those posts suggest, and as a lot of comments on my videos, especially the one I'll link here on ranking America's presidents, suggest, a lot of people don't really know what's in the ACA, like what it did, what it does, and what the outcomes of it are, and why Republicans have failed to repeal it but are still really trying. So let's talk about it. Now, first of all, any kind of healthcare reform or health insurance reform act that actually got passed in the United States was a really big deal, or as the current president called it. And that's in part because American presidents have been talking about trying to reform Americans' access to healthcare for about a century at this point. And we've seen efforts by FDR and Truman and JFK and LBJ, though he did get Medicare and Medicaid through, and Carter and Clinton all go down in flames. And many of those programs were actually opposed by the American Medical Association, the AMA, which accused these programs of being socialized medicine and lined up their troops against them and got a lot of American people very scared about these programs. But the AMA endorsed the Affordable Care Act in 2009. It was a big win, and one of the reasons they do endorse it is because this is not a super liberal program. Barack Obama moved to the right as far as Democrats were concerned on health insurance programs, and he picked up what had been the Republican plan for health insurance reform. This is not Medicare for all. This is not single payer. This is what had been the Republican alternative to those Democratic plans. Republicans like Richard Nixon, Newt Gingrich, and Mitt Romney had supported these types of plans in the past, which is one of the reasons it was really difficult for Romney to run against Obama in 2012, because he had set up an Obamacare-style system in Massachusetts that worked really well, but now he was arguing that Obamacare doesn't work and running against it. What is actually in the Affordable Care Act? I'm glad you asked. So there's 4 big things you need to know about Obamacare. First, it required proof of health insurance, or you would have to pay a tax penalty, and this is called the individual mandate. It mandates that all individuals have health insurance. Does what it says on the tin. It also says that insurance companies can't really charge sick people more than they would charge a healthy person, and that is basically how insurance companies had worked. They would raise prices really high for people who were disabled or sick or high risk, and then that would keep them out of these insurance plans, and that would keep prices low for all these healthy people, and that's how they made money. Now, the idea of Obamacare is the opposite. Instead of kicking those sick people out, we're going to keep all the healthy people in, and the idea is this would keep insurance companies from going through that whole death spiral where they would just collapse. Now, the Affordable Care Act increased Americans' access to health insurance in 3 different ways. Follow me to part 2 for that.
Time for some hard truths. Donald Trump says he has concepts of a plan to replace the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare. Let me tell you something, that's not true. The act passed in 2010. During the midterms, Barack Obama lost his majority trifecta Democratic House and Senate. It was Republican House, Republican Senate. They didn't get rid of Obamacare. They didn't have a plan. Barack Obama served an entire 4 years of a second term. Donald Trump had 4 years in his first term. Joe Biden had 4 years. It's 14 years. They have not come up with a comprehensive alternative to the Affordable Health Care Act. They had a website once. I went to it. It was like an empty warehouse. It was just like some platitudes, some just vague promises, but not anything as close, as comprehensive and extensive as the Affordable Health Care Act. And I'm just hoping and praying that Donald Trump realizes with 50 million Americans on it, 22.3 million, many in red states, it's really popular, especially the pre-existing conditions part, that he just gives up.
Yeah, guys, that is what happened. Actually, most people, they were voting, or they wanted to repeal, or they wanted Trump to repeal Obamacare just because they didn't like it. So what does this tell us? It tells us more on how racist people can be, because why would you vote against the same cover that's helping you cater for your health care? All these insurances companies that they have in the states, they don't cater for pre-existing conditions. If you have cancer or any other pre-existing health condition, some insurance covers or some insurance companies don't cater for these, and you're told you have either to pay cash, or I don't know what people do or used to do in such cases, like some years ago before they introduced Affordable Care Act, which is the same as Obamacare. So the reason as to why it was actually called Obamacare, it's because this initial plan, the ACA was initially a plan for Republicans, but when Obama got in, he took it and he made, the bill was passed, and now people could be in a position to afford, to afford healthcare without having to break their bank accounts. So now, because it's actually Obama that got it passed, they gave it a nickname, which was Obamacare. And now Republicans wanted it to be removed, or they wanted to repeal it. So many Republican supporters wanted this cover to be repealed just because they didn't like it, just because it has the name Obamacare. So when I think about all these, all that it can tell me, this isn't about actually, people are not actually voting to make the American economy great. They were just voting because they didn't want such covers that bear the names of melanated people to be working in this country. Some of them thought that Obamacare was actually meant for melanated people and the poor people, not realizing even some of these people that are actually voting against this Obamacare, they can't even afford to pay their medical bills. They have this Obamacare, which is the Affordable Care Act, that has been helping them, but now they thought it was for the poor people, but it's the same thing that you're using. You see how racist some people can be, because this doesn't tell us about making a good economy for this country, but just hating on one group of people, or hating on people that you think they are poor and you think you're very rich, so you can vote against any policy that's helping the poor people or helping melanated people, because this was the thought of many Republicans voters who wanted Trump to do away with the Obamacare Act. Now, as we're speaking, many of them are actually crying for Trump not to do away with Obamacare Act, because it has been life-saving to millions of American citizens. So this is because with Obamacare or Affordable Care Act, you are in a position to get treatment without breaking your bank with pre-existing conditions, which never used to happen when you have these insurances. And it's clearly seen that Americans are very tired with these health insurance companies. You've seen what's been trending with the healthcare CEO, and he got unalived because I think people are very tired. And when he got unalived, instead of Americans mourning, they were just all happy, making videos about this, saying how grateful they are to this guy who unalived this CEO. So this actually tells us a lot more on how these health insurances are taking advantage of innocent citizens who just been paying the insurance company every month, paying for their covers, only for you to go to a hospital or only for you to go to get treatment and be told, sorry, your insurance cannot cover for this, because these are not the same policies that you signed up for. I mean, you've been paying this for months, you've been paying hundreds of dollars for this, and then you go to the hospital and you're told, sorry, this cannot cover for your medical bill. People have lost lives because of such things, because you go to a hospital and you're told you cannot afford to buy your medicine or the medicine that you need to take for your health condition, because it's a pre-existing condition that needs you to keep on taking these medicines every single day. And now you find that these medicines that people take for pre-existing conditions in the United States of America, they are quite expensive to a point that some people cannot afford these. I've seen videos where a guy said they watched their grandma die because they could not afford to pay for the medicine. They could not afford to buy the medicine, and the insurance refused to let them use the policy, the money that they've been paying for. So that's why you see people are very happy and celebrating the unaliving of this health CEO of this insurance company. And it was shocking to many people. Even me myself, I was so surprised to see such kind of videos of people celebrating unaliving of someone. But kinda I get to understand, because now this unaliving has got even the government to pay attention to what's happening in the healthcare industry when it comes to insurance companies, which are only there to benefit the big people, the big boys, but not the common citizens, which is quite sad. And for people who are voting against policies that they don't even get to understand, what's wrong with you? How do you MAGA supporters that actually wanted Obamacare gone, how do you feel now that you found out Obamacare is the same as Affordable Care Act? Some of you, the policy that has actually been saving your lives and saving you a lot of money from these insurance companies, and maybe money that you've used for your health issues. I'd love you to tell me what your thoughts are on these. If you watched this up to this part and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, kindly consider subscribing to the channel. Give this video a like, and until the next episode, bye.